You think you're free, but you're just performing. They told us from a young age, if we work hard, if we stay in line, if we never give up, one day we'll make it. The house with the white picket fence, the steady job, the loving family, the life without worry. That was the dream they sold us, and we believed it. But pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what if it's all a stage? A carefully written illusion designed to keep you inside a cage you can't see. And worse, a cage you're grateful to be in. No one is threatening you. No chains, no guards, no punishment. And yet you keep running. Running to pay the bills. Running to keep up. Running to protect an image you're not even sure you want. You call it hustle. They call it ambition. But what is it really? Here's the truth. Over 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. No savings, no safety net, no room to breathe. And when you're exhausted, you blame yourself. You think you didn't try hard enough, didn't wake up early enough, didn't manifest correctly. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the system was designed to keep you behind, to keep you chasing, to keep you obedient? Part 1, the illusion of choice and the invisible cage. We are told we have choices. Choose your major, choose your career, choose your dreams. But what kind of freedom is it when every path leads to debt? What kind of choice is it when your future is tied to contracts you barely read? According to Experian, the average American household holds over $100,000 in debt. Student loans, over $1.7 trillion. Still growing. And the most devastating, over 60% of personal bankruptcies in the United States are tied to medical bills. This isn't happening in a poor country. It's happening in the richest one on earth. And here's the cruelest part. You signed the papers. You clicked I agree. You accepted the terms without knowing the cost. Now you wake up in a cage, but you think you chose it. That's the brilliance of the illusion. The system doesn't force you. It guides you gently, consistently. It gives you just enough hope to keep you moving. You can go to college and graduate into 6 figures of debt, or skip college and work 3 jobs that barely cover rent. You can take the job, but your health care costs will swallow half your income. You can buy the house, but you're chained to a 30-year loan that owns you more than you own it. This isn't tyranny. It's theater, and the audience is applauding their own confinement. Modern control doesn't silence you with violence. It silences you with exhaustion. It doesn't lock you in a cell. It buries you in interest rates and convinces you it's freedom. Part 2, the promise of freedom. They said we were free, that if we worked hard, played by the rules, stayed patient, we would get everything we dreamed of. A steady paycheck, a house with a yard, 2 cars in the garage, maybe even a golden retriever wagging its tail when we came home from work. That was the promise, the American dream. A dream sold for generations as the ultimate reward for discipline, sacrifice, and belief in the system. And millions believed it. Millions still do. But look closer and you'll see the cracks. According to recent data, nearly 2/3 of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Almost half of them have never known anything else. No savings, no cushion, no way out. They work full-time. Some work multiple jobs, not to build a future, but just to stay alive, to afford insulin, to keep the lights on, to put gas in the car. They secretly resent driving to a job they quietly hate. This is not the dream. This is quiet desperation, disguised in the language of motivation. This is burnout rebranded as bravery. We were taught that success is a straight line. School, career, family, retirement. But that line breaks. It bends. It burns out long before it ever arrives. The dream has become a treadmill, running, spinning, going nowhere. And the cruelest part, we still blame ourselves. We think if we're struggling, we just didn't try hard enough, that we chose poorly, that we should have gotten a better degree, woke up earlier, stayed more positive. But ask yourself, what kind of system lets you break your back just to stay broke? What kind of freedom leaves you one medical emergency away from collapse? That's not a glitch in the system. That is the system. A machine that feeds on your effort, that promises freedom, but delivers exhaustion. Part 3, the cycle of exhaustion, consumption, and shame. Here's what makes the system so effective. It doesn't just drain your body, It rewires your mind. It creates a cycle. Exhaustion, consumption, shame, repeat. You work long hours. You come home depleted. You crave relief but don't know where to find it. So you scroll. You shop. You compare your life to polished strangers on a glowing screen. Everyone seems successful. Everyone seems happy. Their kitchens look better. Their vacations look cleaner. Their lives seem more together. And suddenly yours doesn't. So what do? You consume. You buy the course. You hang the vision board. You reorganize your closet at midnight. Not because it matters, but because it gives you a fleeting sense of control, a momentary high before the weight returns. You feel like you're making progress, but it's an illusion, because comparison is a game you are designed to lose, and the system knows it. It feeds on your insecurity. It profits from your discomfort. It whispers, you're behind, you're failing, you need to catch up. And the only way is to hustle harder. So you obey, you double down, you grind longer, you silence your needs, not out of passion, but panic. You're not running toward dreams. You're running from shame. And here's the trap. You blame yourself. If you're not thriving, you must be lazy. If you're overwhelmed, you must lack discipline. You internalize the failure because that's how the system survives. It doesn't need to oppress you if it can convince you to oppress yourself. Part 4, Slave Morality and the Worship of Endurance. Over a century ago, Friedrich Nietzsche saw it coming. He warned us about a form of control more powerful than chains. Not violence, not force, but something internal, a morality that lives inside you. He called it slave morality. It didn't come from tyrants. It came from the powerless people who had no wealth, no voice, no real choices. And instead of rising up, they redefined what it meant to be good. They praised suffering. They worshiped obedience. They made humility a virtue because that was all they had left. They turned pain into meaning. They called power evil and submission sacred, not because it was true, but because it helped them survive. And over time, they started to believe it. They internalized it, passed it down, taught their children that endurance was everything. That good people don't ask for more. They accept, they adapt, they sacrifice. And then they began to police themselves. Sound familiar? It should, because the same morality is alive today. We just call it hustle culture. We glorify the grind, brag about 5 a.m. wake-ups, wear stress like a badge of honor. We skip sleep, post our to-do lists, call exhaustion dedication, and tell each other keep going. But we're not proud. We're drowning in fear, in shame, in silence. And the scariest part, we think it's strength. We think being exhausted means we're doing life right. That if you're burnout, you must be winning. That if you slow down, you're falling behind. So we keep pushing. Even when we break, even when we ache, even when a voice inside whispers, this isn't living, but we ignore that voice because we've been taught that to rest is to fail, that to pause is to fall behind. Nietzsche saw this trap. He wrote, "The good man is he who suffers silently." He knew the system didn't need guards if the people could guard themselves. He saw that the greatest prison is built in your own mind, where the walls are shame, the locks are fear, and the guards are your beliefs. Part 5, the cost of obedience. They tell you it's just a phase, that struggling is normal, that if you keep going, things will get better. But for many people, it never does. This isn't a temporary setback. It's a way of life. You wake up tired. You work through pain. You cancel doctor appointments. You skip meals. You smile through meetings. And you tell yourself, I'll rest when I make it. But rest never comes. And here's the trap. You're not working to get ahead. You're working just to stay afloat, not to thrive, but to survive, to keep the lights on, to avoid eviction, to afford medicine your body needs just to function. You obey the rules, but the rules were never written for you. They were designed to extract from you. And the more obedient you are, the more silent you become, the more the system rewards your suffering by calling it strength. They tell you hard work builds character. That pain makes you stronger. That struggling is just part of the process. But stop and ask, who benefits when you believe that? Who profits from your quiet endurance? your skip vacations, your unpaid overtime, your fear of saying no, who gains when you give everything and ask for nothing. The system wants you to think the problem is personal, that it's your habits, your discipline, your mindset. But when millions of people are anxious, exhausted, and drowning in bills, that's not a personal failure. That's a design. You've been conditioned to think that more hustle is the answer, that if you're not sleeping, you're succeeding, that if you're burnout, you must be doing something right. So you push harder even when your body breaks, even when your mind is unraveling, even when your soul whispers, I can't live like this forever. But you silence that voice because you're afraid of slowing down, afraid of being left behind, afraid of being seen as weak, afraid of being called lazy. And so you keep obeying, not out of loyalty, but out of fear, because somewhere along the way, obedience stopped being a choice and became survival. Part 6, Nietzsche and the Overman. Nietzsche didn't just describe the cage. He offered a way out, not a rebellion, not revenge, but a transformation. He called it the Overman, the one who rises above inherited values, who stops obeying stories written by others, who chooses not what's safe, but what's real. The Overman isn't chasing applause. He isn't asking for permission. He doesn't measure success by validation. He measures it by truth his own. He doesn't grind to feel worthy. He doesn't suffer to feel important. He looks at the world and says, if this is the game, I choose not to play it blind. He chooses to see, to ask, to build meaning from within. He asks, what do I actually want? When no one's watching, what matters to me when comparison falls silent? If I wasn't trying to prove anything, what would I do with my time? What would I stop doing? What would I walk away from? That's where freedom begins. Not when the debt is gone. Not when the job is stable. Not when the likes roll in. But when you stop outsourcing your worth. When you stop calling suffering a virtue and start calling it what it is, a warning. You don't need to run away. You don't need to disappear. You just need to stop participating in what is killing you quietly. You don't need to own more. You need to need less, not as a trend, but as resistance. You start subtracting, not to be minimal, but to be free. Free from debt, free from pressure, free from a definition of success that was never yours. In a world that sells confusion, clarity is rebellion. In a world addicted to noise, silence is sacred. And in a system that rewards obedience, living with intention is radical. Part 7, Machiavelli and the Power of Seeing the Structure. If Nietzsche taught us to rewrite the script, Machiavelli taught us to read the stage. He didn't sugarcoat the world. He studied it. Unfiltered, strategic, brutal. He knew power didn't always come from force. It came from perception, from shaping what people believe about themselves, about others, about what's possible. In The Prince, he didn't tell rulers to be kind. He told them to be effective, to use appearance, to manage belief, to control without chains. Because once people believe they're choosing, you no longer need to control them. That's the secret of modern life. You were on a stage, but you didn't design the lights. You didn't write the script. You didn't choose the costume. It was handed to you. And the more convincingly you perform, the more the world applauds. But Machiavelli would ask, do you know who built the stage? Do you know who profits when you stay in character? When you follow the cues, when you never question the role. Because the moment you see the scaffolding, the wires, the tricks, everything changes. You stop reacting. You start observing. You stop performing. You start thinking. And that shift is where power begins. Not rebellion, not resistance, but clarity. Because if you can see the structure, you don't need to destroy it. You just need to step around it. You stop investing energy in systems that were never meant to reward you. You stop sacrificing peace for applause. You stop calling obedience maturity. And you start asking, who benefits from my suffering? Who profits from my silence? Who built this game? And why have I been playing it without question? Machiavelli understood this. He didn't teach people to be cruel. He taught them not to be naive. He taught them to see. Because if you don't understand the structure, you'll become part of someone else's strategy. You'll serve their vision at the cost of your own. But once you see the design, you don't have to fight it. You simply stop playing blind. And that's the real shift. You don't run. You realign. You don't scream, you choose. Outro, wake up from the dream that was never yours. So now we return to the question, the one we started with. Are you free? If freedom means waking up each day, owning your time, your choices, your breath, then most people are not free. If it means resting without guilt, thinking without fear, living without chasing something you don't even want, then no, this isn't freedom. It's performance. It's a script handed to you at birth. Go to school, get a job, buy a house, stay busy. Don't ask questions. And whatever you do, don't fall behind. But real freedom doesn't come from a paycheck. It doesn't come from status or praise or a perfect feed. Real freedom begins with awareness, with seeing the cage. Even if everyone else calls it castle. Because once you see it, you can choose not just how to survive, but how to live. Nietzsche told us to stop borrowing values, to stop obeying systems that strip us of joy and call it discipline. He challenged us to build meaning, not inherit it. And Machiavelli, he reminded us that power lives in perception, that if you don't understand a game, you'll be used by it. But if you do, you can walk away from the stage and rewrite the rules. So what does that mean for you? It means asking the question most people are too tired to ask. Am I living my life or someone else's version of it? That's the real revolution. Not rage, not rebellion, but reclamation of your time, your energy, your clarity. It means stepping off the treadmill, not because you gave up, but because you finally woke up. And yes, they'll say you're unrealistic, that you're wasting potential, that you're not playing the game right. But what's more unrealistic? Spending your one life in quiet exhaustion, or choosing a path that finally feels like yours. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need to burn your plans. You just need to begin with awareness. Start noticing what drains you, what feeds you, what you do because you've been told, and what you do if no one was watching. Then choose piece by piece the life that actually feels like yours. A life not defined by consumption, but by intention. Not by proving yourself, but by knowing yourself. Because in a world that profits from your confusion, clarity is rebellion. In a world addicted to exhaustion, peace is power. And in a system that worships performance, presence is your return. So we end where we began, with a dream, but not the American dream. Your dream, the one still buried under the noise, the shame, the deadline still there, still waiting. You don't need permission. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. Because freedom was never something you had to earn. It was something you were always meant to claim. And now you see the truth. So the final question is simple. Will you keep sleeping through someone else's dream, or finally wake up to your own?